The warning lights flashed across the bridge of the USS Valiant as something impossible appeared on the main screen. Commander Jake Martinez gripped the armrests of his captain's chair, his knuckles turning white as he watched the swirling mass of blue and violet energy tear open the fabric of space itself. "What am I looking at?" Jake demanded, his eyes never leaving the screen. Lieutenant Amy Chen's fingers flew across her console at the science station. Her face went pale as the readings came through. "Sir, it's a temporal anomaly. The energy signatures are off the charts. I've never seen anything like this in any database." The bridge crew of the Valiant worked at their stations with practiced efficiency. They had been on routine patrol near the Kepler expanse for 3 weeks now, mapping gravitational distortions and updating navigation charts. It was supposed to be boring work, the kind of assignment that let crews catch up on maintenance and training. Nothing exciting ever happened out here in the empty spaces between stars. Until now. "Distance to the anomaly?" Jake asked, trying to keep his voice calm. 2,000 kilometers and closing, replied Lieutenant Sophie Turner from Tactical. Her voice carried an edge of concern. "Sir, it's moving toward us. We're not approaching it." "It's approaching us," Jake's mind raced through the options. "Helm back us off. Full reverse thrusters. Get us away from that thing." At the helm station, Lieutenant Henry Ross immediately executed the command. The ship shuddered as the main engines fired, trying to push the heavy cruiser away from the growing rift. But the distance readings on the screen weren't changing. If anything, they were decreasing. "It's not working, sir," Henry reported, sweat beading on his forehead. "We're being pulled in. The gravitational forces are too strong." Chief Engineer Lisa Brooks spoke up from her station at the back of the bridge. "Commander, the ship's not designed to handle this kind of stress. If we get pulled through that thing, I can't guarantee the hull will hold together." Jake made his decision in seconds. "All hands, this is the commander. Brace for impact. Secure all stations and seal emergency bulkheads. Engineering, divert all available power to structural integrity fields." "Already on it." "Sir," Lisa replied, her hands moving across her console. The Valiant groaned as the temporal rift's gravity well seized the ship in an iron grip. The crew held onto their stations as the deck tilted beneath their feet. The normal hum of the engines rose to a painful whine. Through the view screen, Jake watched as the swirling vortex grew larger and larger until it filled his entire field of vision. Then they were inside. The ship tumbled through a tunnel of impossible colors. Time seemed to stretch and compress simultaneously. Jake saw his crew moving in slow motion, then speeding up to a blur. The lights on the bridge flickered and dimmed. Every alarm system on the ship screamed at once. The structural integrity fields held, but barely. Metal groaned and creaked throughout the hull. Jake tried to speak, to give orders, but his voice wouldn't work. He felt like he was being pulled apart and put back together at the same time. His vision blurred. His heart hammered in his chest at a rhythm that made no sense. And then, as suddenly as it began, it was over. The Valiant shot out of the rift like a bullet from a gun. The ship's systems struggled to reboot. Emergency lighting cast red shadows across the bridge. Jake shook his head, trying to clear the fog from his mind. "Sound off," he ordered. "Is everyone all right?" One by one, his bridge crew reported in. They were shaken but uninjured. Throughout the ship, the reports were similar. Some bumps and bruises, a few broken bones in engineering where someone hadn't secured themselves in time, but no fatalities. "They had been lucky. Where are we?" Jake asked. Amy worked at her console, then stopped. She checked her readings again, then a third time. "Sir, you're not going to believe this. Try me. After what we just went through, I'll believe anything. According to the navigation computer, we're in the Kepler expanse. Same region we were in before, but the star positions are wrong. Way wrong." Amy's voice shook slightly. "And the date?" "Commander, the ship's temporal sensors say we've jumped forward in time. 327 years. The bridge went silent. Even the normal background noise of the ship's system seemed to quiet. Jake stared at Amy, waiting for her to say she made a mistake, that she misread the data. But her expression told him she was serious. "That's impossible," First Officer Greg Stone said from his position beside Jake's chair. "Temporal technology doesn't exist. We can't travel through time." "Apparently we just did," Amy replied quietly. Communications Officer Danny Walsh spoke up. "Sir, I'm scanning all frequencies. There's nothing. No coalition beacons, no traffic control signals, no emergency broadcasts. It's like space is completely empty." "Keep scanning," Jake ordered. He turned to Lisa. What's our status? Jump drive is offline. It took a beating going through that rift. I'll need at least 48 hours to get it operational again. Everything else is functional, though some systems are running at reduced capacity. We can fight if we need to, but I wouldn't want to push the ship too hard. Jake nodded. Understood. Tactical, run a full sensor sweep of the area. I want to know if we're alone out here, or if someone saw us arrive. Sophie's hands moved across her controls. Running sweep now, Commander. Should have results in... She paused. Contact. Multiple contacts. Bearing 047, range 300,000 kilometers and closing fast. On screen, Jake commanded. The view screen flickered to life, showing a fleet of ships moving through space with purpose and grace. They were unlike anything Jake had ever seen. The vessels had smooth, organic curves, almost like they had been grown rather than built. Their hulls gleamed with a dark metallic sheen, and along their sides weapon ports glowed with an eerie crimson light. Sir, I'm reading 23 vessels, Sophie reported. They're in attack formation and heading straight for us. Hail them, Jake ordered. Open all frequencies. Let them know we come in peace and request assistance. Danny worked his console for a moment. I'm receiving a response, sir. Putting it through. A voice filled the bridge, cold and mechanical, speaking through a translation matrix. Unidentified vessel. You will power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Resistance will result in your immediate destruction. Jake exchanged a glance with Greg. This is Commander Jake Martinez of the United Earthship Valiant. We mean no harm. We've experienced a temporal displacement and require assistance. There was a pause. When the voice returned, it carried what might have been confusion or perhaps amusement. Impossible. Humanity has been extinct for 203 years. Your species was eliminated during the Great Purge. Whatever you are not human. You will surrender immediately. The bridge crew looked at each other in shock. Jake felt ice forming in his stomach. Extinct, the Great Purge? What had happened in the centuries they had skipped? Sir, they're locking weapons, Sophie announced. I'm reading multiple targeting solutions focusing on us. Jake's training took over. There would be time for questions later if they survived. Red alert. Raise shields. Charge all weapons. If they want to fight, we'll give them one. He leaned forward in his chair, his voice dropping to a dangerous level, and someone explained to them that reports of humanity's extinction have been greatly exaggerated. The alien fleet moved closer, their ships spreading out to surround the Valiant in a pattern that spoke of centuries of military experience. Jake watched the tactical display as the red icons representing enemy vessels took up positions that would allow them to fire from multiple angles simultaneously. They were professionals, he had to give them that. Open a channel again, Jake ordered. Let me talk to whoever's in charge. Danny worked his console. Channel open, sir. This is Commander Martinez. I don't know what you think we are, but I assure you we are human. We were pulled through a temporal anomaly against our will. We are not your enemy unless you make us one. The response came quickly, the mechanical voice now carrying a tone that might have been anger. I am Commander Zareth of the Ascendancy Defense Fleet. Your lies insult the memory of those who died fighting your species. The humans fought with desperation and cunning, using weapons of terrible cruelty. They refused to surrender even when defeat was certain. In the end, we had no choice but to eliminate them entirely. Jake felt his jaw tighten. The voice spoke about the extinction of his species as if it were a simple military necessity, like scrapping an old ship. He looked around his bridge at his crew, at the very real humans who were very much alive, and something cold and hard settled in his chest. Amy, record everything this alien is saying. Every word, every detail, he said quietly. Then louder, Commander Zareth, I'm looking at a bridge full of humans right now. Whatever happened in your past is our future. A future we have every intention of changing. Your temporal manipulation technology is impressive, Zareth replied, but it changes nothing. The Ascendancy eliminated humanity because your species proved too dangerous to exist. You developed weapons specifically designed to kill other sentient beings. You fought not just to win, but to make your enemies suffer. You were a disease that had to be cured. Security Chief Ryan Cooper stepped forward, his face red with anger. Sir, let me take a security team and board one of their ships. I'll show them how extinct we are. Jake held up a hand. Stand down, Ryan. We're outnumbered and outgunned. He kept his eyes on the view screen, watching the alien fleet tighten their formation. But that doesn't mean we're helpless. First Officer Greg Stone moved closer to Jake's chair, speaking quietly. Sir, this could be a psychological warfare tactic. They might be trying to demoralize us, make us think we've already lost before the fighting even starts. Maybe, Jake agreed. But look at the sensor readings. No human settlements. No coalition signals, nothing. What if they're telling the truth? What if something went terribly wrong after we left? Lieutenant Sophie Turner called out from Tactical. Commander, they're powering weapons. All ships are targeting us. I recommend we fire first. Jake made a decision. Greg, you have the bridge. If I don't make it back, get the crew home. Use every trick you know. He stood up and moved to the tactical station. Sophie, show me what we have. Every weapon, every missile, everything. Sophie pulled up the weapons inventory. The Valiant was a heavy cruiser built during a time when humanity still remembered what it was like to fight for survival. She carried nuclear-tipped missiles, electromagnetic railguns that could punch holes through solid steel, plasma torpedoes, and enough conventional explosives to level a small city. The aliens are using energy weapons, Jake observed, studying the sensor data. Advanced stuff way beyond what we have. But look at their ship composition. Their hulls are designed to deflect and absorb energy. They're built to fight other ships using the same technology, which means they might not be ready for kinetic weapons. Sophie finished, understanding dawning on her face. Exactly. They've been fighting wars in this time period for centuries, but they've forgotten what warfare looked like in our time. We might be primitive by their standards, but primitive doesn't mean ineffective. Jake returned to his command chair. All hands, this is the commander. We're about to engage a superior enemy force. They think we're ghosts, echoes of a dead species. Let's show them that ghosts can bite. The first shot came from the alien fleet. A beam of crimson energy lanced through space and slammed into the Valiant's shields. The ship shuddered but held. The shields flickered but regenerated quickly. Return fire, Jake commanded. Railguns full spread. Target the lead ships in their formation. The Valiant's railguns roared to life, hurling solid projectiles at a significant fraction of the speed of light. The tungsten penetrators crossed the distance between the ships in seconds. The alien vessels tried to evade, but they were designed for fighting energy weapons, not physical projectiles traveling at relativistic speeds. 3 alien ships died in the first salvo. The penetrators punched through their hulls like paper, the kinetic energy converting to heat and explosive force inside the ships. Atmosphere vented into space. Internal systems exploded. The ships went dark and began to drift. The alien formation broke apart in confusion. They had expected an easy kill. A single human ship against an entire fleet. Instead, they had lost 3 vessels in seconds to weapons they considered obsolete. They're regrouping, Sophie reported, adjusting their formation to maintain distance. They're afraid of our railguns. Good, Jake said. Let's keep them afraid. Helm, take us into that asteroid field at coordinates 773. Full speed. Make them chase us. Henry Ross didn't hesitate. The Valiant's engines flared bright blue as the ship accelerated toward a nearby cluster of asteroids. The alien fleet followed, firing as they came, but their shots were less accurate now. They were rattled. The Valiant dove into the asteroid field, weaving between massive rocks the size of cities. Henry's hands flew across his controls, making split-second decisions that kept them from smashing into stone while maintaining their speed. Behind them, the alien ships followed, but they were larger and less maneuverable. 2 more ships collided with asteroids, their hulls crumpling like tin cans. Launch missiles, Jake ordered. Program them to hide in the asteroids and activate when the aliens pass. Make them think the rocks themselves are attacking. Sophie grinned as she executed the command. Nuclear-tipped missiles shot out from the Valiant's launch tubes, embedding themselves in asteroids throughout the field. As the alien ships pursued, the missiles activated, detonating in brilliant flashes of light. The explosion shattered asteroids into deadly shrapnel that tore through the alien hulls. 4 more ships went dark. The alien fleet pulled back, regrouping outside the asteroid field. The Valiant used the respite to catch its breath. Chief Engineer Lisa Brooks reported over the intercom. Commander, shields are holding at 60%. Railgun capacitors are recharging. We can keep this up, but not forever. Those energy weapons pack a punch. Jake nodded, even though Lisa couldn't see him. Understood. How long until the jump drive is operational? At least 36 hours, maybe more. I've got teams working around the clock, but that temporal rift did a number on it. Keep at it. Amy, are you still recording everything? Yes, sir, Amy replied. Every sensor reading, every communication, all of it. Good. When we get home, Command needs to know what we're facing. What humanity will be facing? Jake watched the tactical display as the alien fleet reorganized. They were being more cautious now, treating the Valiant with respect instead of contempt. Commander Zareth's voice filled the bridge again. You fight well for ghosts, but you cannot win. We have thousands of ships. You have one. Surrender now and your deaths will be quick. Jake smiled, though there was no humor in it. You want us to surrender? After you told us you exterminated our entire species? After you said we were too dangerous to exist? He leaned forward. Here's what's going to happen, Zareth. We're going to survive this encounter. We're going to return to our own time, and we're going to make sure your great purge never happens. Humanity isn't extinct, not yet, and when we're done, you're going to wish you'd never heard our name. He cut the transmission and turned to his crew. We hold this position as long as we can. Lisa, get that jump drive online. Everyone else prepare for a long fight. We've shown them that humanity isn't dead. Now let's show them why they should have been more careful about making us angry. The Valiant held its position in the asteroid field for 3 days, playing a deadly game of cat and mouse with the Ascendancy fleet. The aliens had learned caution after losing 9 ships in the initial engagements. Now they probed carefully, testing the Valiant's defenses, looking for weaknesses. Jake and his crew used every trick they knew to keep the enemy at bay, while Lisa and her engineering teams worked desperately on the jump drive. But it was during the quiet moments, when the fighting paused and both sides regrouped, that Lieutenant Amy Chen made a discovery that would change everything. Commander, I'm picking up a signal, Amy announced during the 3rd night cycle. Most of the bridge crew was on reduced duty, trying to catch a few hours of sleep while they could. Jake had been reviewing tactical reports when Amy's voice cut through his concentration. What kind of signal? Jake asked, moving to stand behind her station. It's faint and it's old. Really old. But it's definitely human in origin. Amy's fingers danced across her console, isolating the signal and boosting it. It's coming from a star system about 4 light-years from here. The system designation is Kepler 442. According to our database, it's a dead system. The star went cold millions of years ago. A human signal from a dead system, Greg Stone said, joining them at the science station. Could it be a distress beacon? No, it's too regular, too purposeful. It's more like a homing signal. Something left behind intentionally. Amy pulled up more data. Sir, if what the Ascendancy said is true, if humanity really did fight a war 300 years ago, they might have left behind hidden bases or weapons caches, places they could fall back to if things got desperate. Jake felt a spark of hope ignite in his chest. Can we reach it without the jump drive? At maximum sublight speed, we could be there in 6 days, Henry Ross calculated from the helm. But we'd have to break through the Ascendancy blockade first. We'd also be leading them right to whatever's there, Security Chief Ryan Cooper pointed out. If it is a human base, we'd be giving away its location. Jake thought about it. They were running low on options. The jump drive repairs were taking longer than expected. The Ascendancy fleet was growing larger as reinforcements arrived. Sooner or later they would be overwhelmed. But if there was something at that dead system, something left behind by humanity's last stand, it might be worth the risk. Amy, can you tell me anything else about that signal? Anything that might tell us what we're flying toward? Amy worked in silence for several minutes, then suddenly straightened. Sir, I think I've decoded part of it. It's a classification code, military designation. She paused, her eyes widening as she read the information. Commander, it's a dreadnought construction facility, one of the secret shipyards humanity built during the war. The bridge went silent. Dreadnoughts were the largest warships in the human fleet, massive vessels designed to take on multiple enemy ships simultaneously. If there was a dreadnought at that location, even an incomplete one, it could turn the tide. That's our objective then, Jake decided. We break through the blockade and make for that system at maximum speed. If the Ascendancy follows us, so be it. We'll deal with them when we get there. He raised his voice to address the entire bridge. All stations, prepare for combat. We're leaving our defensive position and making a run for it. This is going to get rough. The Valiant powered up its engines and emerged from the asteroid field like a wounded animal breaking from cover. The Ascendancy fleet immediately converged, energy weapons firing in coordinated patterns. The Valiant's shields flared and flickered under the assault. Return fire all weapons, Jake commanded. Don't try to destroy them, just keep them busy. Helm, plot a course through their formation. Use our speed and their size against them. Henry Ross plotted a course that would take them between 2 of the largest alien vessels. The gap was narrow, barely wide enough for the Valiant to fit through, but it would force the aliens to cease fire or risk hitting their own ships. The Valiant shot forward, her engines straining. Energy beams crossed the space around them, some missing by meters. The ship shuddered as a few shots connected, but the shields held. They passed between the two alien dreadnoughts, so close that Jake could see the details of their hulls on the view screen. Then they were through, accelerating hard, leaving the Ascendancy fleet scrambling to pursue. The Valiant's speed was one of her greatest assets. She wasn't as advanced as the alien ships, but she was fast, and her crew knew how to push her to the limit. The pursuit lasted for 5 days. The Ascendancy fleet followed relentlessly, but they couldn't quite catch up. The Valiant maintained her lead, though just barely. When they finally entered the Kepler 442 system, the crew was exhausted, running on coffee and determination. The dead planet hung in space like a frozen tomb. Its surface was covered in ice and rock. No atmosphere, no life, no warmth from the cold star it orbited. But Amy's sensors picked up massive structures beneath the surface, protected by kilometers of rock and ice. There, Amy pointed to a location on the planet's equator. That's where the signal is strongest. There's a facility down there, deep underground. Take us down, Jake ordered. But keep the engines hot. If the Ascendancy shows up, we need to be ready to lift off immediately. The Valiant descended through the thin remains of the planet's atmosphere and set down near the coordinates Amy had provided. An away team assembled quickly. First Officer Greg Stone would lead, accompanied by Security Chief Ryan Cooper, Engineer Kate Morgan, and Lieutenant Sophie Turner. They were the best people Jake had for the job. You have 2 hours, Jake told Greg as the team prepared to disembark. Get down there, figure out what we have, and get back. The Ascendancy fleet will be here soon. The away team took a shuttle down to the planet's surface and located an entrance to the underground facility. The airlock still functioned, powered by some kind of long-lasting energy source. As they descended into the facility, emergency lights flickered to life, responding to their presence. The facility was vast, a cathedral of metal and purpose carved out of solid rock. And there, in the center of a massive underground dock, sat a ship that made the Valiant look small by comparison. It was 5 kilometers long, bristling with weapons that had never been fired, armored with plates thick enough to shrug off anything the Ascendancy could throw at it. My God, Greg breathed, looking up at the massive vessel. It's beautiful. They found the facility's command center and activated the computer systems. A holographic display flickered to life, showing the image of a woman in an admiral's uniform. Her face was tired, marked by years of war, but her eyes still held determination. If you're seeing this, then humanity must have survived somehow, the hologram said. I am Admiral Patricia Hayes, and this is my final message. This facility was built in secret during the last years of the war. The ship you see is the USS Defiance, our last hope for turning the tide against the Ascendancy and their allies. The hologram continued, explaining the situation. The coalition, which humanity had trusted, had betrayed them when the Ascendancy rose to power. Outnumbered and outgunned, humanity had fought a desperate guerrilla war for 50 years. They had built secret bases like this one, hidden weapons caches, and ships designed specifically to kill aliens who thought they were superior. The Defiance is 90% complete, Admiral Hayes explained. We ran out of time before we could finish her. But if you found this place, if you're hearing this message, then maybe you can succeed where we failed. The facility's AI has the complete plans, everything you need to finish what we started. The hologram paused. Make them pay for what they did to us. Make them remember why they should have left humanity alone. The hologram faded. Greg immediately contacted the Valiant. Commander, you need to see this. We've found something that changes everything. Jake listened to Greg's report, his mind racing. A dreadnought, nearly complete with weapons designed specifically to fight the Ascendancy. It was more than they could have hoped for. But finishing the ship would take time, and the Ascendancy fleet would arrive soon. How long to complete the Defiance? Jake asked. Engineer Kate Morgan had been studying the facility's computers. The AI estimates 3 weeks, maybe less if we can get more people down here. The hard part is already done. We just need to install the weapon systems, finish the power distribution network, and run the final tests. 3 weeks. They didn't have 3 weeks. But maybe they didn't need to wait. Jake made his decision. Greg, get everyone back to the ship. We're going to split our forces. Half the crew stays with the Valiant and draws the Ascendancy away from the planet. The other half works with Kate to finish the Defiance. We'll keep them busy while you complete the ship. Sir, that's suicide, Greg protested. The Valiant can't hold off their entire fleet alone. We don't need to destroy them, Jake replied. We just need to survive long enough for you to finish that dreadnought. 3 weeks, Greg. Give me 3 weeks, and then we'll show the Ascendancy what humanity looks like when we stop playing defense. The next 3 weeks became a test of endurance that pushed Jake and his remaining crew to their absolute limits. The Valiant, with only half her complement, faced the Ascendancy fleet in a deadly dance that ranged across the Kepler 442 system. They hit and ran, using every asteroid, every moon, every scrap of cover to avoid being cornered. The ship took damage daily, and Chief Engineer Lisa Brooks performed miracles keeping her operational. Below on the frozen planet, Greg Stone coordinated the effort to complete the Defiance. The facility's AI, which had waited 3 centuries for humans to return, proved invaluable. It directed work crews, managed the automated construction systems, and taught the engineers how to operate weapons technology that was decades ahead of anything they had trained on. Engineer Kate Morgan quickly became the heart of the completion effort. She worked 18-hour days, sleeping only when her body forced her to, driving herself and her teams to meet the impossible deadline. The Defiance was a monster of a ship, and every system had to be tested, calibrated, and integrated perfectly, or the whole thing would be just a useless hunk of metal. The temporal displacement cannons are the problem, Kate explained to Greg during one of their brief planning sessions. They're the most complex weapon system I've ever seen. We're basically talking about guns that can age a target hundreds of years in seconds. The physics alone make my head hurt. Can you make them work? Greg asked. I can make them work, Kate assured him. But I need another week to test them properly. If we fire them and they malfunction, we could tear a hole in space-time or worse. We might not have another week. Commander Martinez is running out of places to hide up there. Greg pulled up a tactical display showing the Valiant's latest position. The ship was damaged, her shields weak, her weapons running low on ammunition. Do what you can with the time we have. Perfect is the enemy of good enough. Up in space, Jake was learning exactly how much punishment his ship could take. The Valiant's hull was scarred with burn marks and impact craters. They had lost the port missile launcher 3 days ago. The starboard railgun was firing at half capacity. The shields flickered more often than they held steady. But they were still fighting, still moving, still dangerous. Lieutenant Henry Ross had become a legend among the remaining crew for his piloting skills. He knew the system like the back of his hand now, knew which moons had the densest atmospheres for hiding in, which asteroid fields had the most metallic interference for sensor jamming, which gas giant rings could mask their heat signature. Commander, I'm reading 8 ships breaking off from the main fleet, Lieutenant Sophie Turner reported from Tactical. Her voice was hoarse from exhaustion. They were all exhausted. They're trying to reach the planet. They must have figured out where we're hiding the rest of our crew, Jake said. We can't let them through. Henry, intercept course. Sophie, load everything we have left. If they want to reach that planet, they're going to have to go through us first. The Valiant changed course, positioning herself between the alien ships and the frozen planet. 8 against 1. The odds had been worse before, but not by much. Open a channel to those ships, Jake ordered. Communications Officer Danny Walsh, who had been running on coffee and determination for days, managed a tired smile as he opened the channel. You're on, sir. Ascendancy vessels, this is Commander Martinez. You will not reach that planet. Turn back now or I will destroy you. The response was immediate. Surrender your vessel, human. Your species' time is over. Accept your fate with dignity. Dignity? Jake laughed, but there was no humor in it. You hunted my species to extinction, and you want to talk about dignity? Let me tell you about dignity. Dignity is fighting when you know you can't win. Dignity is protecting your crew even when you're outnumbered. Dignity is standing up to bullies and saying, no, you don't get to do this. His voice hardened. So no, we will not surrender. And if you want to reach that planet, you're going to have to get past us first. The 8 ships opened fire simultaneously. The Valiant's shields collapsed almost immediately under the concentrated assault. Energy beams scored the hull, melting armor and venting atmosphere from 3 compartments. Damage alarms shrieked throughout the ship, but Jake had learned something important over the past 3 weeks. He had learned that the Ascendancy ships, for all their advanced technology, followed predictable patterns. They fought like they had been taught in academies, with precision and discipline. They fought like they expected their enemies to fight back the same way. Jake didn't fight that way anymore. He fought like a cornered animal. "Ramming speed," he ordered. Henry's eyes widened, but his hands moved without hesitation. The Valiant's engines roared to full power, pushing the damaged ship directly at the nearest alien vessel. The Ascendancy ship tried to evade, but they were too close and the Valiant was too fast. The human cruiser slammed into the alien vessel like a hammer. Metal screamed. Both ships spun wildly from the impact. The Valiant's nose was crushed, but the alien ship's hull was breached in a dozen places. It tumbled away, dead in space. "One down," Jake said grimly. 7 to go. "Sophie, fire everything at the next closest ship. Don't aim for weak spots, just put as much metal and energy on target as possible." The Valiant's remaining weapons spoke. Railgun rounds, plasma torpedoes, and the last of their nuclear missiles converged on a single alien ship. The vessel's shields overloaded and failed. Its hull cracked open like an egg. 2 down. But the other 6 ships were adjusting, surrounding the Valiant, firing from multiple angles. The human ship had no shields left, and her armor was failing. Jake could hear the hull creaking around him, feel the ship dying beneath his feet. "Sir, we can't take much more of this," Lisa Brooks reported from engineering. Her voice carried pain. She had been injured when a power conduit exploded on Deck 7. "The reactor is critical. If we take another hit like that last one, we're going to lose containment." Jake looked at the tactical display. 5 more ships between them and the planet. 5 more ships that would reach Greg and the completion team if the Valiant fell. He couldn't allow that. Wouldn't allow that. "Danny, send a message to First Officer Stone. Tell him the Defiance needs to launch now, ready or not. We're out of time." "Aye, sir," Danny replied quietly. On the planet's surface, Greg received the message and immediately understood what it meant. The Valiant was dying. Commander Martinez was buying them time with his ship and his life. "Kate, status report," Greg demanded. Kate Morgan looked up from her console, her face streaked with grease and exhaustion. "The main systems are online. Weapons are functional, though I can't guarantee the temporal cannons won't do something weird. The jump drive is ready. The ship will fly, but I wouldn't call her battle ready. We need at least another 3 days of testing." "We have 3 minutes," Greg replied. "Everyone who's working on the Defiance, get aboard now. We're launching." The facility's automated systems activated, opening the massive doors that led to the surface. The Defiance's engines, silent for 300 years, rumbled to life. The dreadnought lifted from her dock, rising through the underground facility and emerging into the frozen wasteland of the planet's surface. In space above, Jake saw the energy signature appear on his sensors and felt a surge of hope. "About time," he muttered. "All hands, the Defiance is launching. Our job is done. Henry, get us clear of these ships. We've held them off long enough." But the Ascendancy commander had other ideas. The 6 remaining ships concentrated their fire on the damaged Valiant, determined to destroy the human cruiser before reinforcements could arrive. Energy beams lanced through the vacuum, slamming into the Valiant's exposed hull. The ship shuddered. Systems failed throughout the vessel. The lights on the bridge dimmed, then went out, replaced by emergency lighting that cast everything in red shadows. Jake felt the deck tilt beneath his feet as the artificial gravity began to fail. "Sir, I've lost helm control," Henry reported. "We're adrift." Jake gripped his command chair as the ship tumbled through space. Through the view screen, he could see the Ascendancy ships moving in for the kill, but he could also see something else. A massive shape rising from the planet below, growing larger with every second. The USS Defiance emerged from the atmosphere like an avenging angel. She was 5 kilometers of human engineering, weapons, and barely controlled fury. Her shields were at maximum power. Her weapons were hot and ready, and at her helm sat First Officer Greg Stone, his face set with determination. "This is the USS Defiance to all Ascendancy vessels," Greg's voice boomed across all frequencies. "You were told humanity was extinct. You were told we were eliminated during your Great Purge. But as you can see, reports of our death were premature. And now you're going to learn why your ancestors decided humanity was too dangerous to exist." The Defiance opened fire, and the Ascendancy fleet learned what 300 years of human hatred could create. The first shots from the Defiance were like thunder rolling across the void of space. The Dreadnought's main railguns fired in sequence, each shot sending a projectile the size of a small car at velocities that bent the laws of physics. The rounds crossed the distance to their targets in heartbeats, slamming into the ascendancy ships with devastating force. One alien vessel simply ceased to exist, torn apart by the kinetic impact before its crew even realized they were under fire. A second ship tried to evade, but the Defiance's targeting systems, designed by humans who had studied these enemies for decades, predicted the maneuver perfectly. The railgun round caught it amidships, the impact breaking the vessel's spine and sending both halves spinning away. Inside the Defiance's bridge, Greg Stone stood in the command chair, his hands gripping the armrests as the ship shook from the recoil of her weapons. Engineer Kate Morgan manned the weapons station, her exhaustion forgotten as she coordinated the devastating barrage. Lieutenant Sophie Turner had transferred from the Valiant and now controlled the targeting systems with deadly precision. 4 ships remaining, Sophie reported. They're breaking formation, trying to scatter. Don't let them, Greg ordered. Target the ships heading away from the planet. They cannot be allowed to report what they've seen here. The Defiance's secondary batteries opened fire, filling space with plasma bolts and explosive rounds. 2 more ascendancy ships died in brilliant flashes of light. The remaining 2 vessels turned to fight, their commanders apparently deciding that dying in battle was preferable to running. They're charging weapons, Sophie announced, preparing to fire everything they have. Let them, Greg said calmly.
Kate, this would be a good time to test those temporal displacement cannons. Kate's fingers flew across her console.
The strange weapons that Admiral Hayes had designed so long ago hummed to life, drawing massive amounts of power from the Defiance's reactors. The ship's lights dimmed momentarily as energy was redirected to the experimental systems. Firing now, Kate said, and pressed the activation control. The temporal displacement cannons didn't fire beams of energy or physical projectiles. Instead, they created bubbles of distorted time that expanded outward from the Defiance at the speed of light. When the bubbles intersected with the 2 remaining ascendancy ships, the effect was instant and horrifying. The alien vessels began to age. Metal corroded in seconds. Advanced composites degraded into dust. Systems that had been functioning perfectly failed as centuries of wear and tear caught up with them in moments. The crews inside aged as well, their bodies withering and dying before they could understand what was happening. Within 30 seconds, the 2 ascendancy ships were nothing more than ancient wrecks, 300 years old, their crews long dead. They drifted in space like ghost ships, monuments to the futility of fighting humanity on humanity's terms. The bridge of the Defiance was silent for a moment. Even Greg, who had ordered the firing, looked shaken by what he had witnessed. The temporal weapons were effective, terrifyingly so, but they were also deeply disturbing. They didn't just kill enemies. They erased them from time itself. Get me a channel to the Valiant, Greg ordered, pushing aside his discomfort. There would be time for moral considerations later. Right now, his commander needed help. The connection was poor, filled with static, but Jake Martinez's voice came through. Defiance, this is Martinez. That was some impressive shooting. I don't suppose you have a tow cable? Greg couldn't help but smile at the commander's attempt at humor, even in the face of catastrophe. We're on our way, sir. Hold tight. The Defiance moved alongside the crippled Valiant, dwarfing the smaller cruiser. The dreadnought extended docking clamps and began the delicate process of securing the damaged ship. Medical teams prepared to transfer the wounded. Engineering crews stood ready to assess the damage and begin repairs. But there was no time to rest. Lieutenant Amy Chen, who had transferred to the Defiance during the construction effort, called out from her science station. Commander Stone, I'm detecting a massive energy signature at the edge of the system. Multiple contacts. Lots of them. Greg's blood ran cold. Show me. The main view screen displayed the sensor data. Over 50 ascendancy ships were entering the system, a full battle fleet commanded by Zareth himself. The alien commander had clearly decided that whatever was happening in this dead system required overwhelming force. Sir, we can't fight that many ships, Kate said quietly. The Defiance is powerful, but we're still just one ship against an entire fleet, Greg thought quickly. The Valiant was in no condition to fight. The Defiance was untested in prolonged combat. They could try to run, but with the damaged Valiant in tow, they wouldn't be fast enough to escape. That left only one option. Amy. Have you finished analyzing the temporal rift data? Greg asked. Yes, sir. I believe I can create a stable gateway back to our own time, but it will take several minutes to set up and will be vulnerable during the process. Then we need to buy ourselves those minutes. Greg activated the ship-wide intercom. All hands, this is First Officer Stone. Commander Martinez and the Valiant's crew fought for 3 weeks to give us time to complete this ship. Now it's our turn. We're going to hold this position against superior numbers until we can open a temporal rift home. I won't lie to you. This is going to be the fight of our lives. But we're not fighting for glory or territory. We're fighting for the survival of our species. We're fighting to make sure that the future the Ascendancy created, a future where humanity is extinct, never comes to pass. So check your stations, say your prayers if you have them, and prepare for battle. It's time to show these aliens why they should have left us alone. The Ascendancy fleet spread out as it approached, their formation perfect, their movements coordinated. They had learned from the earlier battles that humanity was dangerous, but they still believed that numbers would prevail. 50 ships against one, even a powerful one, should be an easy victory. They were wrong. The Defiance opened fire at maximum range. Her weapon systems operated by a crew that had nothing left to lose and everything to fight for. Railgun rounds crossed the vast distances between the fleets, guided by targeting computers that never missed. The first salvo destroyed 6 Ascendancy ships before they could react. The alien fleet returned fire, energy beams lancing across space. The Defiance's shields absorbed the hits, flickering but holding. The ship was built to withstand punishment that would vaporize smaller vessels. She was a fortress that could move and fight, designed by humans who had studied their enemies' weapons for decades and built defenses specifically to counter them. Amy, how long until the rift is ready? Greg called out as the ship shook from another volley of enemy fire. 8 minutes, Amy replied, her hands moving frantically across her console. I need 8 minutes of uninterrupted time, 8 minutes. An eternity in battle. Greg watched the tactical display as the Ascendancy fleet maneuvered, trying to surround the Defiance and bring their full firepower to bear. He couldn't let them get into optimal firing positions. Sophie, activate the temporal displacement cannons. Target the ships on our flanks. Kate, give me everything the main batteries have. I want a wall of fire between us and that fleet. The Defiance became a storm of destruction. Her weapons fired in a continuous barrage that lit up the darkness of space. Ascendancy ships died by the dozens, their advanced technology and superior numbers meaningless against weapons specifically designed to kill them. The temporal cannons aged ships into dust. The railguns punched through hulls like paper. The plasma batteries melted armor and vaporized atmosphere. But the Ascendancy kept coming. For every ship destroyed, another moved into position. Their commanders, desperate to stop the human dreadnought, threw their vessels forward in suicidal attacks. Energy beams converged on the Defiance from multiple angles. The shields began to fail in sections. Hull breaches appeared on decks 7 and 12. Inside the Defiance, damage control teams fought fires and sealed breaches. Medical teams worked frantically as casualties mounted, but nobody abandoned their posts. They had all seen what happened to humanity in this timeline. They all understood what was at stake. 5 minutes, Amy called out. The rift is forming, but I need more time. Commander Zareth's voice suddenly filled the bridge, transmitted on all frequencies. Human vessel, you fight well. You have destroyed more of my ships than I thought possible, but you cannot win. Even now, my reinforcements are arriving. Hundreds more ships, thousands. You are alone and we are many. Surrender now. I promise you a quick death. Greg looked around his bridge at his exhausted crew, at the damage reports piling up on his displays, at the tactical screen showing just how badly outnumbered they were. Then he opened a channel to the Valiant's bridge, where Jake Martinez had been watching the battle unfold. Commander, you should have the honor of responding, Greg said. Jake's voice came through, weak but determined. Put me through. The channel opened and Jake spoke. His voice was hoarse, his body injured, but his words carried the weight of 300 years of human survival. Commander Zareth, you asked us to surrender. You promised us a quick death. You told us we cannot win. Jake paused. You're probably right.